On today's podcast episode, I'm going to have Sylvie D'Auost on. Sylvie is a cycling coach for women over 40. This is a demographic that's so often ignored in training advice and nutrition advice in life in general. And as somebody who is 39, almost 40 myself, I was really excited to talk to Sylvie about some of the issues that face us. We also just talk a lot about being a beginner, about being a mom, about having the bravery to show up for training events and races. So if any of those factors relate to you, make sure to stick around for this podcast interview. You're going to enjoy it. Thank you so much for being here. Today we are going to chat about cycling as a woman over 40 and training. But before we dive into all of that, can you just give us an overview, tell us a little bit about yourself and who is Sylvie?
Well, thank you, Kristen. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation. I really love the opportunity to get online on other women's podcasts to talk about women in sports. So, a little bit of my background. I'll just give sort of like a timeline because I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's been like 20 years. So I've done a ton of stuff in 20 years. I started out mountain biking back in 2000. So I don't know, it's like weird. And I'm like, God, every time I do this, I'm like, God, I've done a lot of stuff. And I got into mountain biking, and then I did a bit of adventure racing. So endurance, so 36-hour, 4 days, 6 day. My longest was 8 days. And then I moved to road cycling to train for mountain biking. And then I just sort of left adventure racing because I was a single mom later in that time, and it was just too many sports to focus on. And then I had a spinning studio that I started in 2001. And that's where a lot of my cycling passion came in. Like I started it on a whim, and it grew. I had it for 8 years. I had my own location. And in that time, I started a women's masters race team in 2005. And then just listening to a lot of my clients, female specifically, talking about cycling and how they, didn't have a place. And, there was a few clubs at that time. There weren't really, courteous of female cyclists. Mm-hmm. And then 2008, I pulled the trigger and I launched Cycle Fit Chicks. So it's been 15 years this year. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, oh my God, I'll just see who wants. And I had 42 women. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with them? But it's just gone from there. And I did a lot of road cycling racing myself until 2013. And then I was like, okay, I've had enough of that. Getting a little older, had more kids. And then now I'm getting into gravel. I'm totally obsessed. So, and yeah, I'm really enjoying where I am now. I'm in my 50s, and things have changed since the 40s, how we're like, I remember when I started racing when I was in my 30s, it's just like all summer long. And, like now it's just not like that.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, eh, Kristen? Because like as we age, we need to consider a lot of different things.
Absolutely. So let's start there. What are some of the challenges that you see, like yourself and with your clients, for women over 40? What changes and what are the struggles that start to happen?
So I started specifically putting it out there to coach women over 40 because I went through my 40s racing. As a mom, I had my last two children at 39 and 41. So okay. I had my kids in the 40s, and now I'm 52. And through those 40s, I noticed, changes in my skin, my body. And I didn't see a big shift until I hit like 48. And then now that I'm 52, I'm in like premenopause. what is that doing to my body? How do I have to shift? So it's just sharing a lot of that experience with the ladies that I work with, because everybody's different, but we're not. Things, we all get to the same place at some point in time. A lot of women a lot earlier, a lot of women later, but there's still a lot of similarities in
it seems like something too that, in addition to just needing help, a lot of women just need community and need it to be something that's talked about, because so often we don't talk about what it's like to get older as a woman, and as an athletic woman especially.
Yeah, and how important it is.
Yeah.
Aside from noticing our skin changing, that's the first reality. You're like, oh my God, look at what the hell. And then a little bit of the, muscle density loss. I noticed that a lot at the end of my 40s. And that's, when strength training becomes really prevalent in and amongst the rest of the training we're doing. So cycling and cardio and endurance is really great, but it doesn't develop the muscles that we need to stay strong as a woman. And I think, just really talking more about that, because I was, I stopped going to the gym for a while, and then I started noticing things shifting. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? And then it wasn't a need. It wasn't like a luxury. I like to say it is now a requirement.
Yeah.
And a need to be adding strength training, weightlifting to our workout plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you read the Dr. Stacy Sims book, Roar?
Funny you should mention that, Kristen. I'm listening to it on Audible, and it's the second time around, because that book is jam-packed,
so good,
full of because you're like, oh yeah, that you learn a bunch of things, and you're like, oh God, I gotta make sure. And then by the end of the book, you totally forgotten about what she's talked about at the beginning. You're like, oh yeah. So that's why I'm listening to it again. And I highly recommend it. If anybody's listening to this podcast, go to Audible, download it, listen to it. I just listened to it for 3 hours on my ride yesterday. And I'm going to buy the book and start going through it, the material.
Yes.
And I know she has a second one, which I'm like, okay, I got to observe the first one first and share that information, because I thought there was some pretty, I thought I knew a little bit, but I mean, obviously I'm not I have more experience, just straight up experience. But she had lots of great points, and I do hammer home a lot of things that she talks about in there, like the protein.
Yeah.
And that is important. And a lot of women don't get enough protein, and it affects just about everything. But little things about power gels, which a lot of people love to consume.
Right.
And right.
Her book was the one that really gave me a kick in the butt, because I don't love strength training. I love riding my bike. And for me, strength training is something I have to put on the calendar and go do. But I read that book, and that really
did a 360,
lit a fire underneath me. I was like, oh, you got to take strength training seriously. It is that time of your life where this is super important. It should have been super important before, but since it wasn't, it needs to be now.
Exactly. And you can start anytime.
Right.
Yeah.
So for your clients and for yourself, what do you recommend in terms of strength training?
So, it's funny because through the pandemic, and I hate to say it, because that's when it all kind of came back to me, because I was in the gym. I didn't have a plan, but I was in there anyways, doing stuff, wasting too much time.
Yeah.
I think we can all relate to that. And then I got to working out at home online, 5 days a week, because there's nothing else to do.
Yeah.
Right. Besides homeschooling our kids and trying to run a business and I didn't really have anything, like my husband was working. And then I got into like literally the best shape, fit, physique wise during that time.
Yeah.
But then I also, because I was working out 5 days a week, 30 minutes a day, I almost burnt myself out because I was then cycling too, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
But I looked really good. And there's a thing, like it's like over obsessed, not balancing enough. And then you reach a level where it's just not attainable. But so for me right now, what I've done is, as a coach, I've hired a coach to coach me.
Yeah.
So I've also, and this is what I do with my clients, is like, what are their goals? Where can this fit in? What are they looking to attain? Like, what kind of equipment they work with? Are they still at home, or are they back at the gym? Things like that. What do they like to work on? But lifting weights, it's just lifting weights. Like, that's what we need to ensure bone density and muscle development. And so I need a little motivation. I have goals for next year, and I hired an endurance strength coach because I'm endurance cycling, which is long distance. And so but I also, am super motivated because I attained some goals this summer, and I was just looking forward to I'm already looking forward to next year. So I encourage, like, now is the time. September is the time this fall is to do a little self-assessment. Like, how is your summer? How did your summer unfold? Strength and weaknesses. Where do you want to go next year? What, because every year is a level. Like, you're not going to hit the top. Like, it takes years to get there. And so what is your goal for this winter? Because your goal this winter is going to be different from your goal in the summer, which is going to complement your summer goal. So I'm starting to talk to my clients and my groups about, what did you do like, how was your summer, and what are your goals moving forward? Because that's going to dictate kind of what you do,
right?
What you want to do, right?
Absolutely. How do you approach on the bike training for your clients? How their training plans look different than maybe an athlete that's younger?
So what I've done, and I've been doing this for like, I don't know, I've lost count, like almost 20 years. I've been doing this winter program, and it's evolved over the decades. And so what I did last year, and it really worked for, say, like 10 of my clients that followed it with me. It wasn't a specific thing. So if you're someone who needs like really specific training, like you have like, you're at a level here and you need different training, that's like a personal one-on-one coaching thing. But for anyone like my ladies who are just getting into cycling, or have been cycling for a couple of years, and they want like sort of like a structured winter program, this is perfect. Because as women, or even guys, I have one guy, he's so amazing. I do promote to women, but I'm like, there are some men that are like, just mesh really well with women, right? Like they don't take things to the next level. They're super cool and confident in themselves. And like, those guys can come to my program. Like, they don't upset the flow.
Yeah.
And they're complimentary, and like, they're focused on themselves, but they're like really engaged in everybody else. And so what I do, and it's the same for me, like mom, busy, working, things like this. So for us, we just need to have regular scheduled appointments for training. And what I've done, and I've said, is like, okay, we're going to start with 4 hours a week. And this is where we're going to train. We're going to do Tuesday night intervals. Thursday night is the main night, which is coaching with me, and we work on skill development. Okay, so like indoor skill development, like hill climbing, pedal stroke efficiency, speed, strength, things of that nature, which you then use in your intervals and your group rides. So that's the whole premise. Like if you're going to train inside, like skill development for cycling is different indoor than it is outside, because, you know, when you're inside, you've got less distractions. Well, maybe not, but you know so you don't have to contend with terrain, environment, clothing, you know, all this other things that provide distractions. You can really focus on certain drills and skills inside that you can outside. But then there's outside where it's a different environment and you can't really sometimes work on the stuff inside. It's a different, like you take the skills that you acquired inside and then you then apply them outside. Like pedal stroke efficiency is huge, and that's what I drill into them all winter long. So when they get outside, they are way faster on the bike, and their hill climbing is so much stronger because they can practice easily inside without, you know, everything else around them. So we start off with 4 hours. So Tuesday night, Thursday night, Saturday morning group ride. And the group ride starts at like, you know, an hour, moves to 3 hours. So there's your 4 hours until Christmas every week. So you can schedule it in. And it takes everybody a little bit of couple of weeks, maybe a month to get right onto the program, because everything else is still contending for your time. And then once that's settled and people are on board, then they get in the 4 hours a week. And it's 4 hours. It's not like 200 kilometers. It's time in the saddle. And like when you're talking about coaching, you're always talking about time.
Yeah.
You know, so and then a lot of us, and then in the new year, I encourage them to move it up to 6 hours. So then they have to find 2 extra hours, whether they get on early before one of our trainings, or they stay like half an hour late, or they just get like an endurance 45-minute ride, like in a morning sometime. Or they do longer group rides on the weekends. We also move into attaining 100 kilometers on the bike, on the trainer.
That's a lot on a trainer. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's a lot for this.
Yeah.
It's a lot for your mind to facilitate. So that's where coming in with being motivated as a group. Accountability, showing up, schedule. Do we know what we're going to ride? And it's also pre-scheduled. So like, okay, this date, get ready, you know, get your stuff ready. It's going to be next week. You know, like, are you going to wake up earlier and start earlier and then join the group ride? So there's all like different ways people do it. Cause like nobody wants to sit on a bike all day for 100K. So some of us will start at like 5 a.m. The scheduled group ride starts at like, say, 7:30. So we'll finish our 100K with the group. So a lot of people do in different ways. So they're, you know, we're finished by noon. And yeah, so it's fun. And then we start thinking about, you know, your itinerary. Like, what are your, like, if you haven't set up like a event schedule that you want to attain, or maybe you're going on some trips. We had a couple ladies who did a lot of tours, like with their partners, and they like were blown away about their fitness improvement
Yeah.
with their partners, which was huge, right? Like as a woman, a lot of ladies have faster partners. And if you can gain that fitness to keep up with your partner, that's pretty damn huge.
Yeah.
And it's, so it's not about winning a race or being faster. It's about those little goals. And that's exciting to see too.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
I like too that this is so approachable. I feel like so
Mm-hmm.
many training plans like start at 10 hours a week. And right?
Okay.
That's what most of my
Oh my
friends.
God. I know, right? It's like,
yeah. And that's a lot, especially if you are, like you've said, like if you're a mom, if you work full time, you do all these things, 10 hours a week can be so much that you just don't even get started. Where in reality, you're saying, give me 4 hours a week and we can make a lot of progress with those 4 hours. I think that's awesome.
100%, because showing up is the first like thing you got to get done, like just showing up. And I also noticed too, like when you look at these programs, and even like, because we use Swift is a big component. So Zoom and Swift, you have to have a trainer, you have to be on Swift, like you have to pay these extras. But even if you go on programs on Swift, like I've looked at them like, holy crap, like these are super intense, like right off the bat, or like even these online programs. I mean, you have to have lots of time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't start off like this, and there's no skills involved. Like you just basically jump into it with whatever it is that you know. And if you're not good on the hills, well, you're never going to get really good on the hills. Like it's just going to be that constant slog.
Yeah.
Like, why am I not getting faster on the hill? Well, there's a little skill involved. Like,
yeah. I love that too, because I feel like in mountain biking, we spend a lot of time telling beginners, like, go take a skills clinic, go learn these skills and get coaching, and that'll help you. And I feel like that's
and then come back to me.
Right. And I feel like that's not often talked about on the road. Like, you're just thrown out to the wolves and you gain skills as you go. And I love that you're actually breaking it down for them.
Oh, totally. Like this has been like, even with my women's cycling club, we do one night skills development. So not like maybe 20% actually get involved and come out. So, but those 20% who come out regularly are 100% better by the end of the summer, hands down. But it's like climbing hills, cornering, speed work, obstacle courses, like all these things teach you how to ride your bike, like with intention, with patience. How do you feather your brakes, like gear management, like all these things, like just break it down. And that's a big part of our club is offering those, but like not everybody takes them in, thank God, because if we had 180 people showing up every week, it'd be like so there's those who make it a commitment to show up, and when they do, they get a lot of coaching.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference. Yeah.
What about nutrition? What are you recommending these women are doing in terms of nutrition?
Well, I always, like I preach, I go, it's not about the training. It's about what you eat, how you sleep, and like your hydration.
Yeah.
And then there's training. So, a lot of people reverse it. Like it's all about the training, but like you're super tired all the time. You're hungry. You're eating sugar. So, I try to, so in our program, we always talk about, okay, what are you eating? What kind of snacks are you bringing? So if you're coming out for 100K, that's 4 hours. What's your breakfast going to look like? What kind of snacks are you going to have beside you? So it's easier, right? You don't have to dig for stuff. You got your bottles lined up. So I'm like, what are you eating? Because we need to think about breakfast. Don't show up on coffee and toast. Ain't going to work. And then, snacks, 100 100-calorie snacks every 45 minutes. Try eliminate the sugar, just go try whole food, try move into that, making your own snacks, bagels, wraps, whatever, potatoes, sweet potatoes. You could do a whole lot of, overspending lots of money on gels and cubes and, all that other stuff. That's inside, but outside, when we're going for group rides, I do the same thing, like don't show up on an empty stomach. Don't use this as like something you're going to lose weight on, because it ain't going to happen. You're going to put us all into jeopardy. And because you're going to bonk somewhere along the course and we're all going to have to wait. And I talk about stuff like that because it's a safety factor.
Yeah.
Eat a good breakfast, oatmeal and protein, like put the two together. Even eggs and toast isn't enough. And then, make a sandwich, bring a bagel, bring more than less. I always say, like, I don't still get it. If my girlfriend shows up, we're going to like, it's a 3 to 4 hour ride. What did you bring to eat? What do you mean it's a 3? I'm like, it's a 63K gravel ride. How long do you think that's going to take? No, we're not stopping at a store.
Yeah.
I'm like, here, take one of my bars. It's like, oh my God, girl. So, I'm always bring extra.
Yeah.
So, and I started making like, if you have time making your own snacks, there's so many recipes out there. Like just pick one, make one. I make squeezy bags full of oatmeal and syrup and protein. So, like that's some of the things that I eat. I microwave sweet potato chunks. That's really good. I make wraps. So almost 100% of my food that I eat when I ride is like natural. And then all the sugars at the bottom of my bag. So like the cubes, the gels, the bars, like worst case, if I need extra.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I need extra. But usually carbs, like, your breads and your peanut butters and your jams are going to go so much further than any of those, like, 90 calorie, 100-calorie cubes that you're going to, eat to, the whole ride.
Yeah. One question I've gotten quite a lot is from women over 40 is, what supplements should I be taking? Do you take any supplements? Do you recommend anything?
Well, supplements, people are like, yeah, I don't take supplements. Protein powder is a supplement. And I take protein powder. I have my favorite protein powder. It's the most natural that I can find. And then I have other meal replacement shakes that I put into my day. Because remember, protein. We can't walk around with a chicken breast in our mouth, in our hands all the time. We have to supplement with extra protein.
Yeah.
So it's find something that you like that's as pure, meaning it's not a mixture of isolate and concentrate and all these different proteins or protein mixes. Try and find one that just has like the least amount of ingredients as possible. It might be super bland. Doesn't matter. You can add it to all sorts of things. Oatmeal, cottage cheese. You can put berries in it. So you don't need something super tasty. You just need a good protein. And I do take like immune boosters that are full of mushrooms. And I do take greens, powdered greens, because anybody seen the prices of vegetables these days?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I drink my greens on the most part. When I have a garden, so I get in there. And I don't really take anything else. My meal I'm dabbling in Infinite Nutrition. I won't, they have a pretty interesting line of products. So I'm trying that, for riding, but it's not a meal replacement. It's a supplement for cycling or like sports. Like it's not something I would sit there and drink like while I'm working. It's an endurance blend, so I will be using it while I'm riding. I do have my favorite electrolyte that I will drink literally all day long on a very, very low dose because it has B12, it has all these vitamins and minerals in it, and it's amazing.
What electrolyte is that?
It's Amped Hydrate. It's from Isogenics. Like I literally keep one in my sure they're all over. But see, it's the most dense hydrate I've ever, and the consistency of vitamins or minerals in there it's huge. And so I can put like a sprinkling of this in here and get enough flavor to make my water palatable because I don't drink just straight water.
Okay.
Ever.
Got it.
Yeah. So this little package is super tiny and it goes a really, really long way compared to other ones that I've tried. And it's so good on my stomach, like honest, 10 years using that product.
Over time, you've mentioned, you started out mountain biking and you've done all these different disciplines and now you've moved more into like endurance gravel racing. Do you find that that's common for women as they age? And do you think that like we become better at endurance as we age? Because that seems to be both my experience and the experience of a lot of women that I know and see that they've gotten more into endurance as they've gotten older.
I think there's a lot of reasons why. Like I have read that women's mindset, like our body's just built for longer endurance because of the mindset, and I don't know how our bodies are made. So that's just one thing. However, we all know the gravel is like taken off like wildfire. People are loving it. It provides us a safer space. I think sometimes I'm not, depending, my girlfriend's always like, I never gravel ride by myself. And it's for very good reason, depending on where you go. You should always be with a friend.
Yeah.
But the thing is that gravel takes us to a lot of really cool places that road doesn't. And they're isolated and things like that. And so that's a reason. I've noticed a shift, like even in our club where, I think it's how to say, like, there's more fun, interesting things coming out of gravel, like bike packing, bike touring. I think more of us are watching people who are doing that on a regular basis. Like, it's just, wow.
Yeah.
And so a lot of us are starting to dip our toe in where we get a multi-purpose bike where you can ride it on the road and on gravel paths. I hate to say it, like I used to be a huge contributor and supporter of road racing, but road is being replaced by gravel. I hate to say it out loud, but it's kind of the way. You see it because, like, maybe not so much here in Canada, but if you go into Michigan, as an example, there's a gazillion gravel events. Like every weekend, you can go. I even go to Michigan to race.
Yeah,
and I went and I did Unbound this summer. The XL, so 350 miler, and because of my adventure racing background, I don't know if I would have done it otherwise, but I just equate the two together. Like it's 36-hour race. Well, I'm 36 hours on my bike and this is what I'm doing. But I do find that a lot of women are moving in that direction. Like even a lot of our club members are getting out there and doing road ride and a gravel ride. And sometimes our road rides end up on gravel paths. So it's kind of, does that answer your question? I'm not sure if I just went
absolutely
completely.
I think you made a good point too, that just gravel racing is a lot more approachable and accessible for a lot of women.
The community.
Yeah.
Like in itself, like they aren't even comparable to road or triathlons. Like that community is very competitive, very like solo, where gravel is like, oh, we got everybody out there and we're like all partying together, like we're super like even nice on the course. You know what I mean? Like helpful and things of like that. And so I find that the community part is pulling a lot of people in, and the social part of it. Yeah. And that's where like I went and I attended my first one. I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun, but I came from mountain biking to road. So gravel is a really amazing mesh of the two.
It is.
Yeah. And I'm just like, fuck, I love both of them, but now I could just love this one. Yeah.
Another bike.
I know, right? I'm like, oh God.
What have I not asked you yet that you would like women over 40 to know?
Oh, let's talk about I talk a lot about this, and this is the story we tell ourselves, that we're not good enough. We're not this, we're not fit enough. And I talk about this a lot at the beginning of the season. I said, because, and I'll just speak to my cycling club, because I deal with a lot of women there, and this always comes out because a lot of them are like, I'm not good enough to join your club. I'm not fit enough this year. I'm going to get fit and then I'm going to join you. I'm like, why do you have to do that? Why do you not join us and get fit and be social and meet people and have fun over like trying to do it by yourself, which is probably never going to happen, or be completely miserable following your husband or partner.
Right.
And changing that mindset in your head that you can't do it, or you're not, you're going to be slowing somebody down, or you're going to be last, to I can do it. And it doesn't matter if I'm last, because somebody's got to be last. And don't think that I've never been last in a lot of rides. I have, and it's okay. But, it's changing that mindset in women, that you are accepted in this, like you do deserve to be there, and you are amazing, and you've got a bike. Let's learn how to ride it. Like, put it in your schedule. Don't let other things replace it. And then, we reach out in the middle of summer, go, hey, we haven't seen you in 2 months. Oh, the kids, the this, the that. And now I see all these pictures. You guys are so much fitter, la, 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 la. And I'm like, we have 5 levels, beginner to advanced. I am most certain that you fit into one of them. So sign up for one of the rides. And if it's too slow, then go to the next one next week. If it's too fast, go down one. And it's encouraging these women to come out, because 1 week leads to 2, leads to the month, then it's September and you haven't been out, and you're like, oh, that was a waste of money. Well, we gave you tons of options. It's not that you wasted your money, like you just didn't make it a priority. And sad, but a lot of people pay into stuff and don't make it a priority. The value is like way beyond what you're paying.
Yeah.
But it's the mindset. It's a mindset to like, you deserve to be there. And, there's so many times. So ladies, if you're listening to this, there's so many times that I've traveled to places by myself because I've simply wanted to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what happens? I meet people.
Yeah.
And it's not because you say, oh, you're super extroverted. I am not extroverted. I am very much introverted, but I like to go, and I don't even care if I meet people because I would like to just go and experience that myself. But in the process, I meet people and I start networking, and it starts being fun. And there's lots of groups, like, as an example, not last year, but the year before. So I have a podcast. I interviewed Matt Acker from Barrie-Roubaix. I was like, and I'd only been to one gravel race. And from that, I was just like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Blah. Yeah. I've got to interview like event organizers. And so I was like, and through that, I was like, oh, I'm going to make that my goal. I'm going to go to that event. And I started planning, and I went there by myself. Cool. And I was on a couple gravel pages, and I reached out to women on those gravel pages. I said, hey, I'm going to be there. Is anybody else going? Let's meet somewhere and support each other. And I went, and I participated, I survived, and I met some friends in the process. And then this year I organized and I drove out to Kansas for Unbound, and I didn't know anybody, but I camped in the fairgrounds and I met lots of people, but it's just putting yourself out there, because there's so many, people just like us who want to go and do events, and you can just, if you can't do it by yourself, grab a friend. And sometimes your friends aren't into it. So now you need to make new friends.
Yeah.
new friends that are into things that you want to do.
That's right.
And now I've got some key friends who are into me just phoning them up, say, hey, you want to go gravel riding? They're like, yeah, sure. I'm like, what are you doing this weekend? But I wouldn't be sad if I was biking by myself either. So I think it's important that we feel that confident, build the confidence in yourself. And that's where, joining groups, training during the winter, developing friends, putting yourself out there, getting super uncomfortable, because we know that's where everything all happens, is when you're uncomfortable and feeling vulnerable. And and then it passes.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I survived.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
What's next? Yeah.
Yep.
So that's
I preach this all the time.
Yeah.
And then this summer I decided to do a downhill mountain bike race, and there were like literally like 3 women doing it. And I did it anyhow. And it was so good to like push myself out of my comfort zone. So I kind of remembered again what it is like, because I've gotten so comfortable going to events on my own and doing these things, but doing something brand new and something really scary.
Downhill racing.
I did it. And then it was like, no big deal. That was no big deal, So, but it was good to just do it again so I could like walk my talk.
Yeah.
Show folks that it's totally okay. You just show up, you do it, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. Next time I'm going to bring a couple friends.
Yeah.
And,
exactly. Right. Get more women doing it. Yep.
So I feel like I kind of go out there and experience it, and then I come back and go, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
Yep.
And I think you all should come with me.
Yep.
And then somewhere would be like, yeah, that's good. Okay. Let's put the money up. Let's go. Let's start training. Make a plan.
So I've got
not everybody's into that. Oh, go. Sorry.
No, you're fine. 3 final questions for you. Before we do
no.
that, what, like, how can people come join your group? Or if they're long distance, how can they come find you online?
Okay, so joining my group, my website is Sylvie D'Auost, so that's SYLV. It'll be on the show notes, I'm sure.
Will, yes.
But my last name is DAOUST.ca. So that's where my programs are going to be. So depending on the time zone, my programs will work for you. West Coast, maybe not so much because it's the time change, but you can find me on Facebook. So still searching Sylvie D'Auost. I'm on Instagram, Sylvie D'Auost _cyclist. LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok. Depending on, so you could kind of find me everywhere. I think just
have a
and YouTube
too. And a podcast.
Yeah. And my podcast. My podcast is Secrets from the Saddle. And we will be having Christy on there. So I'll be grilling her with everything that she does because she looks like she does some super cool things. So she must be I guess, but yeah.
Very
my
good.
Podcast is on YouTube and Instagram. Like that's where you can find it.
And I'll include those notes.
And everywhere. But yeah, everywhere on actually you could do just go www.secretsfromthesaddlepodcast.ca. That's probably the best place to go for it.
Very good. Final 3 questions. The first one is, what bike or bikes do you ride?
Oh, Christy. Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so my road bike is a Specialized Amira Pro. Yeah. But she's about 7 years old and she's in perfect condition. So I am like, I don't upgrade my bike every couple of years. So there's another thing. Don't feel the pressure of buying bikes every year.
Yep.
My gravel bike is a Montu Copus. So it's a new brand that's local here, and they start bringing bikes in. So that's what I rode for this year. And I do mountain bike, but it's not a newer bike. It's like an old hardtail. But I could still keep up with everybody. Yeah, and everybody laughs because it's like super skinny tires now, compared to what everybody's riding. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I have. Nothing too exciting. So just know you don't have to have the top of the end. Amen. Because it's about the engine that's riding the bike. Yep. Yeah.
Second question is, what is your favorite place you've ever ridden your bike?
Oh, okay. So, apart from being super exotic, which I have been able to ride in France, Nice, on a training. That's right. So this is a fun, I know these are short, but so here's a funny little story. Speaking of going out and doing something super uncomfortable. So I had a training coach from Montreal, and he's like, you should come to France and train in a training camp. I'm like, oh my God, that'd be super cool. France. So I'm like, all right, sign me up. And so when I arrived, okay, everybody. So this is like about 10 years ago. So maybe not 15 years ago. It was me and the junior team. Okay, so just picture it. Yeah. Me and the junior team and this one girl, Joanne, who I raced against, and she was like a billy goat on the hills. So it's like, oh, fabulous. This is going to be awesome. However, it was awesome. And I survived. I ate way too much food and had a great time. But so yesterday I went for a gravel ride, and I was on the Trans-Canada #1 from Ottawa to West Carleton. I was biking out to see my son's football game, and I thought that was absolutely fabulous. I've never been on that course or that rail trail. So that was just yesterday.
Yeah, I love that. Final question is, what is your favorite thing about riding your bike?
How much time do you have? I love the freedom. I love going out, especially early mornings when it's misty and cool and quiet. And sometimes I get really sentimental and sappy. And I love the wind. I feel like a I feel like a wild horse sometimes. Like I don't know if you've ever ridden horses. I've ridden horses when I was a kid, and just that freedom of being on like a fast moving machine. Um, yeah, you're gonna make me cry because sometimes I cry.
So
I'm so
good.
grateful.
I love that. I hope you enjoyed that podcast interview and got something important out of it. If you did, would you please make sure to subscribe so you get notified when future episodes come out? We'd also appreciate it if you went online and social media and shared this so that more women get notified about this podcast and we can help spread the word, encourage and inspire more women to get out on their bikes. Until next time, happy riding.